you check the children? Show a little match sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes. That is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
Fuego here.
And I'm Davey Deathray.
And we are here to talk about the newest from the mind of Osgood Perkins, the gentleman behind both The Monkey from this year and Longlegs from last year. This one is called Keeper, and this is another one that was kept very enigmatic in the marketing. There is very little that tips you off as to what this movie is about. In fact, I would hesitate to say anything in the trailer actually tips you off to what this movie's about. Maybe a teeny tiny bit with the dialogue, but they don't show you shit as to what is actually going on in this movie. And I'm going to start this one with a resounding, I loved this so much. And I was not sure what to expect with such enigmatic marketing. And being that I was not a fan of Longlegs, I was a big fan of The Monkey, but I didn't think The Monkey is the kind of movie I could watch over and over again. So but clearly that's not all he could do, right? Because Longlegs and then The Monkey, two completely different movies. I would say this is a third completely different movie within the genre. And this is easily my favorite Osgood Perkins movie. I loved how this was executed so much. I'm a huge Tatiana Maslany fan to start. I've been on that train since Orphan Black. So I'm a big fan of her as an actress, and this is just going to show even more people why she's amazing. Like, people that saw She-Hulk, this is going to wash that taste right out of their mouth. You know what I mean?
I didn't mind She-Hulk.
I liked it, but there's a lot of people that hate on it. So, but I adored this movie. I thought there was some nightmare imagery that really got to me. And I adored how the movie started. It set such an unbelievable tone, and we've never seen anything done quite like it. And there was so much about this movie to love. And the longer I've been out of the theater, the more my liking for it has gone up as I've thought more about it. So I'll gush about it along the way, but let me throw it over to you, Fueguissimo.
I didn't care for this very much.
God damn.
Yeah, man. It had everything in place. I thought the filmmaking was stellar. I especially loved a lot of the transitionary things that were done with, like, some of the blending and overlaying of everything from, like, flowing water with Tatiana in a bathtub. Her acting was fantastic. I didn't like the story to this at all. I thought it was half-baked, undercooked. I thought the lore was very poorly explained, if they really made much of an effort to at all. I don't need stuff spoon-fed to me necessarily, but I really did not think stuff was really developed particularly well. And the thing about Osgood Perkins is he usually writes his own stuff. In this case, he did not. This was visually from the mind of Osgood Perkins, but this was written by Nick Lepard, the same guy who wrote Dangerous Animals from earlier this year. And I feel like it really showed in a lot of ways. I don't really feel like it felt a little derivative at times, especially when you start to really figure out what's going on, that I pieced together relatively quickly once we got to said location without spoiling anything. But I mean, her performance was tremendous. It was really, along with the filmmaking, and I liked the score and also some of the needle drops too in this. So it was like everything was in place for me, aside from, it ramps up in the last 10, 15 minutes or so, and that I appreciated. But aside from that, it didn't really do anything that I found groundbreaking or unexpected. So I was kind of disappointed, honestly. How about you, Davey?
Yeah, I dug this one. I'm liking it more and more coming out of the theater. I'm one of those people that when I watch a movie, it's like I need to sit and let it marinate at least for a little bit. So I'm glad there's been a little bit of time between getting out of the theater and jumping in for this, because when it comes to Osgood Perkins, I'm a huge fan, and I'm gonna pour over every bit of every frame. I love his visual storytelling. I think he's got a pretty unique voice in horror as far as where to put the camera, what to do with it, editing, all that great stuff. The effects, we'll get into all that, but everything here worked really well for me. It is a slow burn. So if you're somebody that, maybe not even wanting to have information spoon fed to you, but if you want a movie that's going to kind of get right to it, this one is going to sort of let it, marinate, I guess, as it all builds up. But yeah, great performance by Tatiana Maslany. Yeah, needle drops, killer. Loved just the set here, the location that they're at. Whoever did the scouting, amazing, because there's all these weird angles, and it's just this interesting, like the arrangement of the interior of this cabin that they're at is just something like I've never seen before. While at the same time, I was like, oh, this could be a good companion piece to like bring her back because they both have this like rainy ass like cabin in the middle of the woods. So yeah, I dug this one quite a bit. I'm surprised that you really liked it, Cecil. I was like, oh no, is Cecil gonna hate this? Is it gonna be a little too like esoteric or too abstract? And I'm happy to hear that you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I was just surprised at how it, like, while yes, the overall idea, like, I caught on to that as far as like, okay, I kind of know probably where this is, you know, obviously the opening 3 minutes kind of lets you know where things are clearly going to go. So it's not like, but I could not predict at any point in the movie what was going to happen next. So I call that unpredictable. While the overall story, yes, I knew the land that the ship was going to arrive at, but I didn't have any idea like what we were going to encounter along the way as we were watching it. Like I was like, okay, yes, we've had a similar setup to this in other movies, sure, but you know, let's see what happens. And then it kept doing things that I wasn't expecting. You know, something happens in the woods that I was like, wait, what? Is it this kind of movie? But they had already kind of like pointed towards a different kind of movie. And I was like, what is going on? And so like, it was keeping me on my toes. I was deeply engaged with like, what is going on? And, you know, or like, why is all this happening? What is going, you know, like, you know, the cake is a lie for any fans of Portal, you know, like it was just a really interesting, engaging watch. And again, like you guys said, all of the rest of the aspects of the film, the production design, the location, the acting, the actual execution of the cinematography, all of it is so high end, and I really liked how the story played out. So that's why I arrive at loving it, to be honest with you. Like, it was different enough, and I loved how it ended. Like, again, a lot was going to rest. A lot of movies nowadays, like, kind of depends on sticking the landing, right? You can forgive a lot of stuff if the landing is stuck. And I feel like they stuck the landing in an interesting, fun way. And I, you know, again, I didn't know exactly how it was going to go. I had an idea, but the way they got there was really cool. The design of a lot of things towards the end were really interesting, especially.
That was one of the best parts for me.
Yeah. There's something that I have right here, you know, for people watching the review. This is, you know, something, obviously it's from the movie. I won't say the context, but like there's some interesting, weird visuals in this movie, and you don't know how or when they're gonna, you know, appear. And I don't know. I'm rambling. So the story essentially is Tatiana Maslany, and she is accompanying her significant other that we find out they've been together about a year, and they're going to this cabin to have a weekend together. And there's, you know, a little bit of uneasiness that is put into place into Tatiana Maslany's mind by her friend, who, like, you know, is suggesting that this is a situation that Tatiana is certainly hoping is not the situation. But, you know, it's once they get out there, she starts experiencing some weird stuff. And, you know, him being a doctor, at some point he gets called away, and so she's alone at the house. And, you know, he has a cousin that is next door. That's something, you know, he's a super successful guy, but there's clearly a little something, you know, off about him too, because he's just clearly a big womanizer, doesn't even care about this foreign woman that he's brought with him. And so it's about Tatiana Maslany's sort of slow spiral, encountering all this weird stuff that she can't really explain. And not really being able to do much about it, being in such a secluded place. And so it's what happens and how does that play out, and the explanation of what's happening is not something we want to get into. We're going to keep this spoiler free, but that is the long and short of the setup of the film. And again, I really enjoyed how it all played out. Again, the setup, yes, is something we've seen before, but it's the execution of the story, and I feel like they really executed it in a high level. And I really dug a lot of the nightmare imagery that we got along the way, which again, I won't say what it is, but I will talk about it when we get to the effects. So yeah, story-wise, I just dug how it played out.
How about Davey?
Yeah, I it is relatively simple, and you were talking about the beginning of the first 3 minutes of the movie, Cecil, and kind of what that sets up for everyone. And there's a touch of that in the trailer that kind of got my mind wandering as far as is this going to be a story that's told through this huge span of time? What's really going on here? And I think the story does a really good job of sort of, making you wonder those things. And, even questioning at times with Tatiana Maslany's character, does she have a history of something that we don't know about? There are all these really great questions as she's experiencing all this really weird shit. And I thought it was a good way to do, at the end of the day, it's kind of like a, folklore-ish kind of horror. And I thought it was a really creative way to do a modern folklore type of horror. And I did not, once when push comes to shove and we start getting some of the meat on the bone as to what's really going on, I was genuinely surprised with how they handled it from there. So yeah, I really dug the story here, and, it is a slow burn, and it just kind of pecks away at it. But yeah, I really dug how they handled that here.
Yeah, I love slow burns, man. I mean, Blackcoat's Daughter, the first thing that I ever saw from Osgood is the epitome of a slow burn. I am not averse to slow burn in any way, shape, or form. It's when you have a lot of ideas that I feel like are just kind of grazed upon as opposed to properly explored. Most notably, without getting too much into it, the folk aspect of it and how that ties in. They didn't give me enough, honestly. I felt like this was underdeveloped and half-baked and relied much more so on a terrific performance and just the visual artistry of the presentation that Osgood puts together, as opposed to really developing the lore of what is really going on. And we get some hints pretty early on about what's actually going to happen here, most notably something that the cousin says at one point, and I was maybe 30-40 minutes into the movie. So, I mean, from there, it was pretty obvious. But I don't know, man. I didn't hate it. I feel like I have to be in full defense mode when I'm outnumbered, in all honesty.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, but no, seriously, because you have to defend your position and not sound like a retard, and so, or somebody who's daft or whatever. But yeah, I mean, once again, I will have all of my praise in the technical categories and in the performances. And well, actually, the one performance, because I didn't really even think the love interest was particularly great until some things start to really develop later in the film, and you start to kind of realize what's actually transpiring. But I mean, Tatiana, man, she very similar to Rebecca Hall in The Night House. I mean, this is an isolated woman, as after he goes off to check on this patient, where you're just she has so much heavy lifting to do, and she's in a foreign environment, and the paranoia, the isolation, the aspect of the cake and whatever. We get some hints about it, and I have my own theories about it as well, as did her roommate, her friend that she calls and is just like, oh, you feel like this? Is it because of this or something? So she embodied both gleeful just weirdness at times, but she also had kind of this, curiosity about herself and just kind of looking around at the environment, at the cousin and all kinds of different stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, she had a lot of heavy lifting to do, and I thought she was tremendous. That's definitely the one thing that I cannot offer one bit of criticism about. She, had a lot to do and a lot to shoulder, and I thought she did an excellent job. So,
Davey?
Yeah, as far as the performances go, yeah, I mean, she is absolutely incredible here. It is all contingent on that performance working, as you guys have, stated, and she knocks it out of the park. I really like her. I haven't seen her in too much, I did see her in The Monkey. I thought she was great in that, like really hilarious. Like that first third of The Monkey was my favorite, chunk of the film there. But yeah, I mean, in this movie, there's something that's so natural about her. And then as the weird stuff starts happening, she has a way of really displaying to the audience like the level of fear and paranoia that's going on. That is something that it's got to be really tough to perform. But yeah, particularly one of the scenes just gave me like unsettling goosebumps just from her reaction to what's going on. So yeah, I mean performances, I really dug her. Rosif Sutherland, I thought he was, I think, yeah, kind of like what you were saying, Fuego, like as the story begins to unfold, you kind of get some insight as to the character a little bit more, right? So the performance, I think looking back on the movie, and I'm going to check out the movie tomorrow as well, so I'm excited to see it for a second time, knowing how everything goes. I think there are some like really, interesting performance choices there that make a lot of sense once you get the whole package. And yeah, the cousin's there for a little bit. He's really great for what he does. And I mean, there's really only like 5 performers here, I think, as far as characters go in the film. And yeah, I thought the acting was really damn solid here. You can tell that Oz is comfortable working with somebody like Tatiana, and I'm glad that she got the shot here to show people what she can do.
Yeah, and one bit, if I can just jump in, scares aside, she has a great little exchange of sorts with, I guess the lady friend of the cousin when they show up, and just
Oh yeah.
where you could tell that there is almost like a little bit of jealousy, a little bit of intimidation, a little bit of self-consciousness of
Hmm.
this woman who she perceives perhaps as being much more like, glamorous and beautiful than her. And so just the way that she navigated it, not just when they were there, but also after the departure with her interactions with the boyfriend and stuff, I thought that just showed even more range than when she has to act, frightened or whatever else. So.
Yeah, there's a little bit of an exchange towards the beginning of the movie where you kind of get the idea that she's struggled to have healthy long-term relationships. Like it's just sort of like hinted at really quick that it's kind of a big deal that she's been with this guy for a year, and I think you see some of that kind of like pensive sort of nature from her performance as well before everything gets like real.
It really ramped up, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved her performance a lot. Her significant other, I can see why Fuego would say what he's saying. I kind of was feeling a little bit of that early on, but again, when the movie explains itself, I feel like it does. It sort of gives a reason for why he was acting the way that he was acting and stuff like that. But it's. As far as being low key and all that stuff, sort of understated, all of that. You know what? I feel like that last statement was a bit giving away, a bit spoilery, so I'm gonna roll that back on myself.
Okay.
Just sing it. But yeah, ultimately, I feel like he did a good job in his role. Once the story played out, and so yeah, the acting I feel like was definitely solid in this. But Tatiana just leading the way, doing what I know she can do so well. Again, it was like 5 or 6 seasons of Orphan Black, and she was amazing in like ultimately like 8 or 9 different roles in that movie or in that show. So I know that she's super talented, and it's this is just emblematic of it. So but yeah, filmmaking wise, we touched on it being really high end as well. So let's talk about just the production overall. Again, the location was phenomenal. Whether if they built it, awesome. If they found it, awesomer. That's a great find. But yeah, the location and the production design, all on point. And the filmmaking though is what stood out to me. The cinematography specifically, because there was some very deliberate choices made in the framing along the way that a lot of movies don't bother trying to explore. And a lot of times I'm not a fan of certain types of framing. Like when two people are having a conversation, normally, you know, if the person looking to the right is on the left of the frame and the person looking to the left is on the right side of the frame, right? So it kind of makes sense. But recently there's been this thing where people will, like, if someone's talking this way, they'll put them at the very right of the frame. And if the person's talking this way, they'll put them at the very left of the frame. It just leaves all this empty space, and I fucking hate that. It makes my skin crawl. And so he didn't do that, but what he did do is a few times the entirety of the frame is obscured by something except for like a little sliver. And I was like, this, like, the other thing pisses me off, but this is interesting to me, and I can't quite say why it's different, but it's like, it's such an extreme emphasis on, like, look at this. But I don't know, like, you'd think I would have been bothered by it based on the other thing that bothers me, but I think it quite worked in this one. He only does it like 4, maybe 5 times, but each time it's like a really interesting frame, even though, you know, 5/6 of it is covered by something, you know. So I thought the framing was really interesting to watch. So yeah, I really liked the cinematography, specifically production wise.
Yeah, for me, man, it was what they did in post in a lot of ways, because like so much of almost like overlaying things where like there would be multiple bits of footage and there would be a translucency to one bit of it, so you could see what was on like the lower level, and then you could see other like characters, for instance, that we see in the opening bit of the film, just overlaid to a degree over Tatiana. And then there's also a particular moment where they did almost this really beautiful kaleidoscopic effect that I think really emphasized just what is going on in her head and some of the potential psychedelia that she's experiencing from the isolation and from whatever other external forces or, you know, stuff may be going down. So it was really just the beauty of taking that cinematography and these great selection of shots and then just doing all kinds of weird trickery and just, I don't know, just avant-garde pushing the envelope of how everything was going to actually look. Like if I was a little like elevated, so to speak, I think this would have been far more beautiful than it already was. And it already was beautiful, you know, but if I was lifted or something, man, I mean, God, who knows? So, no.
Yeah, this movie is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, that's the thing about when you talk Osgood Perkins, like you can sit there and gush about framing and they're just, you know, there aren't, of course, I don't want every director out there just making movies that look like Osgood Perkins. It's what makes him so special and just what makes everyone kind of stand out. But I think there's something to it, and I think it's something that he did in Longlegs as well, where yeah, you're purposely blocking, you're, you know, very minuscule movements. Everything is so like there's so much intention behind it. It's like you write the movie on the page, and then Oz sits down with his cinematographer and finds out how they're going to write it visually. You know, it looks, everything is like so well planned. There are some shots where it's just like a bunch of trees and it just looks beautiful. And I know it's just the forest, but like where you put the camera, the time of day that you shoot, like the location that you select, it just looks so beautiful. And then I noticed a lot in this movie, a lot of camera like low to the ground. And maybe they do that. I'm starting to think now that we're talking about it, I'm like, I think that the visual storytelling is aligning with the actual story. So, you know, earlier on, things are more obscured because we don't know as much of what's going on. And the more the story opens up, the more the visuals open up. But I noticed a lot of shots when she's in the tub, it's this like recessed tub into the ground. So the camera's like low to the ground and we get a lot of those shots, just little movements. It makes me look for, oh, is there something I'm missing? Is there some sort of clue? It just sort of like lets me sink in and become more immersed in what's going on. And I don't know if anyone does that better than Oz currently working right now. Yeah,
and this is another one of those films where very, very perceptive the viewer must be to things that may or may not be going on in the background. There was one bit in particular that I thought, I mean, we know that there's spooky stuff going on in this house, so I don't think it's unfair to say that, you know, maybe a Haunting of Hill House sort of comparison where you were just watching every frame of what Flanagan did with that show to see what could be lurking in the background, you know, and were my eyes playing tricks on me, perhaps, you know, that sort of thing. So.
Yeah, and one of the other things I wanted to say about the framing is outside of the obscure things, There was a lot of really awesome, to me, very visually pleasing to my OCD brain, very symmetrical, wide establishing shots. You know, I really loved it. There's one in particular of the forest where there's just a massive redwood tree right down the middle of the frame, and I was like, oh,
with the model.
this
Yeah.
feels so
Yeah.
good.
That was
Like,
a-
I was like,
yeah.
it just scratch. That's my ASMR. Like beautiful framing like that, it just scratches something in my brain where I'm just like, oh yeah, you know. And there's a few of those symmetrical wide moments in the movie, and I took note every single time because I'm like, yeah, dude, like I'm not. Clearly Osgood, like he knows. He's kind of like, he doesn't do that shit where he's like the person's like all the way over here and it's just a bunch of empty frame for no reason, seemingly no reason, right? I'll bet the filmmakers that do that are like, oh, but the reason is something.
Sure.
It's a lot easier for me to see Oz's reasons for what he's doing than other people trying to pull that shit. So yeah, loved all that. I want to segue into, because we're still kind of production adjacent. You guys talk about the needle drops because I don't remember much of those, but I did absolutely adore the sound design in this one. The sound design is so good, the spatial sound design, and like just it's so funny too. I think when Vince DeSanti, when he sees this, like she almost has like Jason in Never Hike Alone level footsteps in this house. Like they are loud steps, but like ultimately I felt like he was doing it on purpose. It was like helping the story in a way. I can't explain why because it'd be spoilery, but it was definitely a choice. And there's a lot of house creaking, you know, cabin creaking, and a lot of, you know, spatial things as far as where sounds are coming from and why is the sound moving in such a way and things like that. You know, just all kinds of wonderful sound design in this movie. I really took specific note of it. I wish I had taken a more specific note of the score or the needle drops, but I was all over the sound design in this.
I mean, the needle drop for me that I thought was really effective is the one that bookends the movie. I mean, that fell in love. I want to say it's like Elvis Bishop, maybe. I don't know, but it's a 70s song. You can most definitely tell from the production, from the vocal harmonies and everything. And I feel like it epitomized kind of that fact of, okay, well, when you're falling in love with somebody, there is that sort of uncertainty about it. You know, I fooled around and I found myself in this situation, and, you know, am I ready for it, and everything that, you know, accompanies it and whatnot. And then there's also a song that's used a number of times too. It was almost like kind of a folky sort of, man, what was she singing about? It was like playing in my something, and unless you're good to me, I'm not gonna go along with it or something. So that, I mean, strummy kind of thing used for creepy effect is very popular in a lot of modern genre, but I thought both of those needle drops were good. So
yeah, that second song you're talking about had kind of like this lullaby kind of sound, and it's a little bit of a waltz. It's like a folky waltz, and I think it you know, sounds like a much older song. I recognize the songs they were dropping, but I couldn't, you know, like name the artists or whatever. But yeah, it's this whole like, I don't think I like you anymore because you don't treat me so good.
Yeah.
So there's definitely some like storytelling going on with the song usage. I think especially the fooled around and fell in love with the way the movie wraps up. It's like that can have you know, a totally like it brings an awesome meaning to the track, which is, yeah, I mean, I think that's something that I don't always notice those, you know, usually when I notice a needle drop, it might be that it's not working for me. In this movie, it really worked for me. And especially because all the music they're listening to is relatively old. Yeah. I thought that, like, now that I'm looking back at the film, I'm like, oh, I think that's that's working into the story as well, into what's really going on here.
Yeah, and especially the fooled around and fell in love because of something that the boyfriend character says to her a number of times throughout the movie, and also with the satisfaction of the ending, which I will say, the ending was pretty satisfying for this movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was griping about, you know, half-baked lore and things of that nature, but the ending is pretty satisfying. So, yeah. Honey, honey, dun 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 dun.
Oh, wait, you mean sugar, sugar?
Sugar,
Come on,
sugar.
sing the
Sugar,
song
sugar,
right.
honey.
Before I go, God,
Well, no, it's sugar, sugar.
I
Honey,
understand.
honey.
Yeah, I know. All right, so let's finish up talking about the effects. So definitely some digital work, obviously, quite a bit of digital effects work, but I feel like once again Osgood knows how to keep the effects done in the right lighting.
So not machete.
Yes, he's the anti-machete. But you know, he definitely utilizes CG a good amount of the time. But I thought, except for one effect in the whole movie, no, I didn't bump into any. Like, obviously, you knew that they were effects because just can't be done practically. You know, like it's just flat out can't be done practically. But it didn't pull me out of it because it was done in the right lighting. The only thing that pulled me out of it was something very reminiscent of Cobweb and or Mama. You know, so it's, you know, that unfortunately was the one where I was like, that's been done better. But everything else was like top tier for me. I really dug. And one effect in particular was so unnerving for me. So unnerving. And I was just like, no, I don't like that. No, stop it. No. I really didn't like that. And I love it for that. You know what I mean? Like, I love it for not liking it as much as I did. I really, really loved, like, it's, some people will be like, that's so silly. That's so stupid. But I loved it. I loved that particular effect.
So you see some good stuff in the trailer. I mean, I want to say the last trailer, maybe. I mean, I've seen some of the screen caps floating around on Bloody and a few other, you know, horror sites where some of the choice bits. I mean, we're talking like some drool going down, and you know.
So that's what I have in. That's the background. You guys can't see the background, but that drool guy is the background. But I didn't watch we have the last trailer to react to, Fuego. So clearly, we're not going to do that. So I never watched the last trailer. So I'm glad. I'm glad none of it was ruined for me.
Yeah, same. I just saw, you know, screen grabs of it, and this was one that I did, you know, despite the fact that I was underwhelmed by, you know, various aspects of it. Well, honestly, really just the story in a lot of ways, but I still just didn't, because Neon was so secretive with the marketing for this one, and they also weren't anywhere near as like heavy-handed as with something like Long Legs. It makes me wonder if they were maybe a little apprehensive about the commercial success possibility of this film, because they weren't like really just as forceful about it as they have been with some of their more recent projects. But the stuff in the basement, without getting into anything, was top notch.
Oh God, in the third act, man.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah, the effects work here is awesome. There's one effect at the very end where I'm like, man, that's gotta be digital, but it looks so good that I'm almost like I'm asking myself questions about, like, I'm trying to figure out, is there a way that this is practical because it looked that real. So yeah, you know, Andy Muschietti, take note. Welcome to Derry, all that stuff. Because I don't think Keeper, it doesn't look like it was a wildly expensive movie, but man, they utilize the digital effects so well. There's a lot of really good practical work in here also. So yeah, I think that and even some moments where I was like getting a little bit of like poltergeisty kind of vibes. One moment in particular, and I'm like, I like that. And yeah, maybe there were certain times in the movie where I did want a little bit more. But it never left me like wanting for too long. And yeah, man, the visual effects here, you're always kind of looking out for something. And some of those things you're, you know, some of the ways they're telling that part of the story are through the visual effects. So I'm very curious to talk offline and figure out which effect gave you the heebie-jeebies, Cecil, because there's one for me, but I don't want to say it because I want people to go in fresh.
Right. Yeah, I'm very tempted to do something in the thumbnail that would spoil that, but
we'll see.
I don't know. I might not be able to help myself.
Let us know in the comments if we spoiled the movie in the thumbnail.
Yeah, like, you fuckers. But yeah, so there you go, guys. I think that's that's as much as we are able to say in a non-spoiler fashion. So definitely go and check this out. I think it's very worthwhile to see in the theater. You know, they Fuego may disagree, but
No, man. I mean, hey, I'm not going to deter anyone. Make up your own mind is what I always like to say. Art is subjective, right? You know, I say it constantly. So,
but yeah, well, I mean, there's times where I say I think you can wait until streaming on this one, but for this one, I would say, you know, I think it's worth going to the theater for, especially if you do the opening crowd. You know, I'm a big opening weekend crowd horror movie kind of guy, because that's when you're going to get the best communal experience, and you're going to see how well the movie plays amongst everyone, you know, not just your own personal reaction. So, so yeah, I think, any final thoughts from you guys?
no.
I mean, I would say if you're a fan of Osgood Perkins, you're going to have a good time here. And if you, you know, if blocking and framing and camera movement and all that stuff really gets you going as a film fan, then this is tailor-made for you. So yeah, I really dug this one.
Yeah, it's a film student's horror film.
Yes.
I love that. All right, so that's going to do it, you guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you've seen the movie, let us know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Try and keep it spoiler-free for at least the first couple of days, but I'm very curious to know other people's thoughts. You know, clearly we're you know, a bit all over the spectrum here. You know, Davey liked it, I loved it, and Fuego didn't like it. So there you go. That's 3 different perspectives in one review. We bring you more here at the Horror Show. So thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel. We greatly appreciate it. Until next time, though, I've been Cecil Laird.
Gracias, Fuego.
And I've been Davey Deathray.
And remember,
Stay
Stay scared.